Yep, and I knew nothing about accounting, and that's been such a big piece of it because if you don't understand your accounting, you can sink pretty fast.
Yes. Yeah. The knowing your numbers is a huge aspect of learning a business. But I think part of that, like you touched on it, is just having some form of training in a structured environment. It can be really important, at least to just hone some of your skills, which I always think the ability to sell and understanding that you are selling and what you're selling and conceptualize that is such an important thing for anyone to learn at any level in life, because really, as you go through life, any interaction with another human being, you're selling yourself.
Welcome to the Roll Up and Roll Out podcast. Sit down with blue-collar business owners and inspired entrepreneurs to get the industry insights from the leaders that grow our local communities and learn how to scale your business. Regardless of GED, these people know how to GSD. Here is your host, Paul Childers. Let's get to work.
Welcome back to another episode of Roll Up and Roll Out, where I interview blue-collar business owners who know how to get stuff done and at some point in their careers dove in and just started. Today we've got Carolyn Johnson, right? With Sator Design. Carolyn, if you would just take a second here and just kind of introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about your background and what got you started down the path that you're on now.
So I am Carolyn Johnson. Do you want personal stuff? Or I have two sons, and honestly, what got me started is I went through a divorce and I had two little kids, and I really wanted to, at that time, decide what full-time my career I wanted to be in. I was working part-time at a group home doing direct care. I liked it, but I knew I needed something that would pay my bills. So I went back to school and got a degree in kitchen and bath with Century College. I did some design work with Dakota College, and then I went on to work for a company called Home Value Interiors as a kitchen and bath designer. And after a few years working there, I specialized in commercial sales, selling cabinetry to apartment buildings that were rehabbing units. And, mostly all commercial, not dealing business to business. So either builders, remodelers, property managers, apartment building owners. And then 2008 hit and our world changed. And I had all these clients, I had jobs in progress, and Home Value went bankrupt and closed its doors. So I had like this, even though like the economy had crashed, I think all these builders, remodelers, everyone in my industry had either gone bankrupt or were just barely hanging on by a thread.
Mm-hmm.
But at that time, I had this opportunity to take this group of all these clients that I had developed by working there and take the leap forward to go out on my own and do it. So I started in my basement. I had a business partner at the time, and soon we got a showroom in Uptown Minneapolis and just started selling kitchens. And I had a few clients that made it possible for me to be able to make this leap because I was right in the middle of rehabbing their whole buildings, redoing all their cabinets, all their countertops, all that kind of stuff. And they're like, what are we going to do? We're right in the middle of this project. So they really like supported me, even though it was a leap of faith from them, given that I didn't know how to run a business. I mean, everything's been on the job learning with that piece of it. And that's a whole long discussion, but, yeah, like, anyway, so I got started and I'm like, well, I suppose I need to learn QuickBooks. And, there's just all these aspects of running a business that you don't think about until you get into it. But, so that's kind of where I started. So we had a division where we were doing residential cabinets, where we were trying to, we were selling cabinets, and we had our multifamily commercial division. But what kept happening in the residential side is that we would lose all our jobs to other people who wanted, because they would say, well, we want to buy the cabinets with you, but can't you do our whole project? And you would spend so many hours working with people on the design piece of it that it was really, you would lose the whole job, because if you couldn't execute the whole job, they would just go find someone else at that time. And it was so competitive. Everyone was just scrounging for any work they had, selling at really low prices just to kind of get some cash flow in, because you look pretty young. I don't know if you remember it, but it was dire times.
Yep. I was working in the agricultural industry at that point in time. So the irony there is while that recession was happening on the consumer and mainstream business side, agriculture was booming at that point in time, with crop prices being some of the highest that they've ever been. So like farmers were doing fantastically well through that period. So kind of like being rural, our experience through the recession was very different, because we're driven off of the farm economy, which was really strong through that period of time. So it's kind of an interesting
it's a dichotomy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And I was so deep in like just trying to survive. I had 2 little kids, trying to make my bills and all of that, keep them going, and trying to start this business. So anyway, that was in 2010, and I got my contracting license for the business, and just through the years it's evolved. And I never thought I'd have employees, and I have about 20 now, and it's been like, I didn't have the vision. It just kind of organically happened through the year.
I appreciate you saying that, because so often in a lot of, if you go to any masterminds, or if you follow any kind of like certain influencers and stuff on social media, they're always talking about, you got to have a purpose, you got to have a vision. And I think for so many entrepreneurs, it's not necessarily that you have a vision. It's just that you have a situation that came up that kind of forced your hand, and you either have to decide to do one thing or another. And once you commit, the vision kind of just has to kind of materialize as you figure out your path.
Yeah, I had a loose vision. I didn't spend hours and hours documenting it. I didn't have time. I had to make sales. So, the bottom line is you have to have the revenue. Otherwise, you can I could sit around and think about my whole structure, this and that. I didn't have time. I'm like, I got to earn money. I got to pay my bills. So,
Yep.
And that was my primary thought. and it's evolved a lot through the years. So,
Do you think, looking back, that eventually, if Home Value would have stayed around, that you would have branched out on your own? Or do you think that was just kind of a, at the time, maybe not so much a happy coincidence, but kind of a pivotal like cog in your life that was like, okay, like we're just going to springboard this way?
I think I would have. I don't know if I would have branched out on my own. I think I would have. I think I have that entrepreneurial thing that it's just a part of who I am, and I would have done it in one shape or form. I don't know how it would have come to fruition, but I think given that they went bankrupt, I knew I had an opportunity. A lot of people went on and found other jobs to work for, but I thought, I'm going to do this. I know I have the spirit of the entrepreneurial spirit that I want to, this is my opening to do it.
Yep.
And either succeed or fail.
Yeah. And that spirit is sometimes hard to put your finger on. It took me 37 years to finally be able to put my finger on it, as to why I always felt like I needed to, move from job to job to job, and never found like a sense of contentment. And finally I had a spot where I was just like, okay, like I just want to be able to fail on my own. If I'm going to fail, it's just going to be my fault and nobody else's.
Yep. Yeah, that's true. It is. And how old was I? So I think I went through the divorce around like 34. So I'd worked for Home Value maybe 6 or 7 years at that point. And so I was in my 38, 39 when this all started. So I wasn't like a 20-something-year-old, which is good if you can do that then. However, I do feel like it's good to get some industry experience in whatever you're going to do so you have a better idea of what's involved. I kind of knew how to sell the cabinets. I knew how to order them. I knew all of that. It's been the running a business that's been a bigger learning curve. I was like at a business school. I have a degree in mass communications from the U of M, and then I went back to design school. So,
Yep.
but
You were able to learn the
thing,
structure.
yep, and I knew nothing about accounting, and that's been such a big piece of it because if you don't understand your accounting, you can sink pretty fast.
Yes. Yeah. The knowing your numbers is a huge aspect of learning a business. But I think part of that, like you touched on it, is just having some form of training in a structured environment. It can be really important, at least to just hone some of your skills, which I always think the ability to sell and understanding that you are selling and what you're selling and conceptualize that is such an important thing for anyone to learn at any level in life, because really, as you go through life, any interaction with another human being, you're selling yourself. And
Absolutely. I mean, even if you don't think of yourself as sales, you are on some level.
yep.
And- yeah.
So, tell me, a little bit about, as you were growing and building the business into what it is now, when you would come up on a new roadblock or a new challenge, like what was your process to kind of work your way through that? Did you have other business owners that you were connected with that you were able to reach out, or were you kind of somebody that just forged ahead on their own and just learned by doing?
I had a few mentors. There's another design build in town. He met with us, and I remember him saying, and this stuck with me early on, as he's like, you when you're a contractor, it's more about running the business than being a contractor. Or if you're doing these projects, or if you own owning the business and being a contractor at the same time, like you have to like get control of running the business to make it work. And I think, unfortunately, for a lot of people who go into it, and especially, I mean, it's a male dominated field. So I hold the license. I'm not doing the work, but there are a lot of guys out there who are really talented and they hold their contracting license and they go out there. They're kind of a one-man show, or maybe have a few staff, and they don't, they run the executing the projects and doing the labor, but they don't always pay attention to the business part of it. And the hardest part of being a contractor and doing these jobs is managing your cash and your cash flow. So, I mean, it gets tricky because you're having to get, a lot of times buy a lot of materials before you're getting paid. You'll get a down payment, but still you're owed a lot of money before that final payment comes in.
Yep.
So, did I answer your question?
Yeah. No,
Like,
absolutely.
Tangent?
I always like to know.
That's been the hardest piece of it, is the cash flow management.
Yeah. And that's the side of things, the side of business that I really like to know about is like, when you get to a hurdle, like, did you reach out to somebody that is, ahead of where you are, that is able to kind of give you some tips and tricks on how to get through that stuff? Or were you somebody that just kind of, forced their way through those pieces? So, because I think sometimes we forget that we can reach out and ask questions, and it's not a failure or it's not a weakness to just ask somebody for help.
Yeah, I had two people. I had a property management company owner, and he was a great mentor for me. And then I had this guy very briefly who owned a design build firm. I joined different groups where you could learn about it. Luckily we had the internet. You could look up stuff. I got information from there, read some books. I got it from all different avenues. But yeah, and I mean, you get into it and you have to there's just so many administrative things that you have to do that you don't realize. Managing all your subs insurance, all these kind of things. So, There isn't really, there aren't really classes on it.
No.
So,
No.
I mean, at least if there were, especially because it's really a great thing to go into. And a lot of people, we're going to need contractors coming up in the future.
Yep.
It'd be really nice to have coursework for them to, hey, if you're going to start this business, make sure you get these other things in place so you can be successful at it.
Yep. And kind of have an idea of how you want to grow and where you should delegate. Because what I've found, working with what I do is a lot of business owners, they end up delegating off initially the stuff that they really enjoy doing, which for a lot of them is the sales and the the networking, the marketing spot, because that's the piece that they feel the most confident like delegating because they're good at it. So they're like, oh, I can manage this. When really what they should be doing is delegating off their weakest spot, which is usually like bookkeeping and project management, and just depending on your personality type. Like I always say, like the last thing you should do is delegate the things that you love first. Like those should be like the very last thing that you delegate off, and you should always hold on to those because that's what makes you who you are.
That's true. You're right with that. I think, yeah, and you may get into it like I got into it. I like designing, but I actually like running my business more. And I like being a guide to my designers. Like, let's review the designs together, this and that. But you'll gravitate towards the things that you love, exactly like you said. I don't like project management. I did it early on because I had to, but I know I'm not that good at it. So I know my strengths and weaknesses. So you have to like really have honest conversations with yourself to know like, hey, I'm terrible at this. Let's find someone to do it. Oddly enough, even though I have that creative side of the brain, I like the bookkeeping. I don't like the bookkeeping, but I like the financial piece of it, like running my reports, looking at my P&L, my balance sheet. Like I love keeping track of all that.
Yeah.
Because it's a concrete measure of where I'm at the business.
Yeah.
Business. So I like that piece of it. I don't want to even say, oh, counts, but yeah.
You know the numbers that matter, and you like to see it, right? And that's
Right.
that's a piece that a lot of businesses I don't think get to fast enough or know how to get to, is understanding what numbers matter, and then understanding that I don't like entering all of my bookkeeping stuff. So I got a bookkeeper that does that for me because I'm the same way. Just show me the reports. I like the data behind them. I like the big picture. I don't like doing like the little busy work of entering the receipts and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I had to do it early on, so I learned because I couldn't afford to hire someone, but now I have someone that does it, and she's great, and honestly, as I've grown too, I realized, like, I probably need some help with even, like, the whole bigger financial planning piece of it, so I outsourced a fractional CFO. It's been great because I can kinda, like, not stress then about figuring out the financials every month, and which that would take me a week. I mean, it's just a lot of work, and he does that, and so we meet every other week, and he kinda shows me where we're at, like,
Yeah.
here's gonna be your cash flow issues, this and that, and that's been worth every penny, and I don't wanna invest in a full-time CFO right now, so it's been a great alternative to that,
Yep.
but yeah, piecing together all those pieces and making it work, and you're right, do the stuff you love.
Yep. One last question here as we're kind of drawing up on time. What is it that you find continuously, wakes you up in the morning and throughout the day and just keeps you kind of focused and driving forward about your business and just what you're doing?
Oh gosh, I just like seeing it grow. It's fun. I started this flooring division. It's been a lot harder than I thought it would be, but I like seeing the growth and I like setting goals. Like I want to be here in a couple years or I think that's it. Like I want my business to be successful. I have a great employees underneath me. I want to keep them employed. I think it's the success of it. I feel like I'm a generous employer too. I need a certain amount to live, and I want to be able to retire. I always say I don't want to eat cat food or anything when I retire. I mean, people right now, our labor industry is so hard. It's hard to keep employees. You want to have a good culture at your workplace. You want to give them the opportunity to have a good 401k match, healthcare, all that stuff. So I try to I provide all of that, even though we're pretty little, and I want to just have a really great team and grow.
Yeah.
And I don't want to grow to a point where it becomes big and corporate, but we have still room to grow in the next 10 years while
Yeah.
I'm around working here still. So
Well, that's good.
maybe I'll work until I die. Who knows?
I've never met an entrepreneur that's like, I'm going to retire and do nothing.
Yeah, I can't ever see myself retiring at what I do, but
Yeah. You got to be involved in something. That's just the way we're wired.
yeah, I would. Yep, I'm busybody.
But, well, I appreciate you taking time out of your day to come on and share, kind of your story, your background. And again, I'm glad that we were able to connect and do this.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Okay, have a good day.